Hello, kids. I'm Miss Rita, and today I'm going to teach you about the most famous, most respected Arab singer of all time, and her name is Kulthum. Kulthum is no longer alive. She died in 1975, but her legacy lives on until today. And what makes her so special is her music is as listened to and as respected today as it was when she was alive. So I'm going to take you on a journey, and we're going to learn about the famous Kulthum, Star of the East, the fourth pyramid, and the voice of Egypt. So, Kulthum was born sometime between the year 1898 and 1904. And you might be thinking, well, why is it that they don't know when Kulthum was born? Well, we don't know when she was born because at the time when she was born, which is like over 100 years ago, um, and the place where she was born in Egypt in a small village on the Delta Nile. Um, when babies were born, they weren't born in hospitals where their birth was recorded and the date and the time and all of that. So what it would happen would be when a woman went into labor, they probably called the neighbor woman that deals with delivery, like a midwife or someone that's good at that, delivering babies, and she'd come over and they deliver the baby, and that was it. No recording, no paperwork, and so that is why they don't know the exact date. But she was born around the year 1900. If she were still alive today, that would make her, you tell me, take a moment to think about it. How old would Kulthum be if she were still alive today? If she were born in the year 1900? And if we're now in 2020, the year 2020, how old would she be? So if you guessed she would be 120 years old, you are right. That's how old she would be if she were still alive. So, this is a photo of Kulthum, and she went on to become a very, very, very famous singer. And I am going to walk you through her a little bit about her life. So, like I said, she was born in a village in the Delta Nile near the river. So if you were to look at the map of um, the Arab world, you would see Egypt. That's where she was born, and she is born along this river. Somewhere along this river. This is the Nile River. And she was born in a small village. Her father was a religious person. He was an imam, which is equivalent to a rabbi if you're Jewish, or a priest or pastor if you're Christian. And he worked in a mosque or a masjid, which is like a church or a synagogue. And the family realized early on that Kulthum had a gift. She could sing, but they had a bit of a dilemma. The dad didn't know what to do. His daughter was very talented, but at the time and the place where they were living, it was unacceptable for a woman to sing or a girl to sing in public or in front of other men. And so it was a shame to the family. It would be an embarrassment to the family. So what he did was he dressed Kulthum up as if she were a boy, and he took her along to religious celebrations and weddings where she would sing for the people. And she did that for several years, and people really started to love her, and they recognized her as the girl with the big voice. At one point, the family was approached by a singer, someone in the music industry who really liked Kulthum's singing, and told them that they should take her to Cairo. Cairo is the capital city of Egypt, And it's a very busy place, a lot of people. And they told her that, that she could go to school there and she could develop her skills, her singing skills. And the family agreed. And so they all moved to Cairo, the big city. And so this is a photo right here of Kulthum dressed as a boy. She has this long coat on, and she has what looks like hijab, but it's not. It's a hatta, and men wear this. And so it's like a scarf that would normally flow straight down, and on top is like this circle rope made out of like a rope-like fabric, and it holds it in place. And men would wear that, and that's what Kulthum wore when she would sing at these celebrations. Just one second. And so she went to school and she learned how to sing and she went to college and she became more and more popular. And um, sometimes she started these record deals where she started recording her music and people started listening and she became popular. um, but still, when she would walk in a room, she would, dress simply, and sometimes they would call her the Bedouin, or they were kind of like shocked because that wasn't what they were expecting. But when they were expecting someone a little fancier, but she was from a small village, and so that was who she was. But when she opened her mouth and she began to sing, everyone was mesmerized in the room. She would amaze everyone in the room. Even children from outside would come and put their ears near the window to listen to the big voice of Kulthum. And here's a picture of her kind of dressed in simple clothing. And here's another picture of her. Um, she's a little fancier. You can see she started to wear the chandelier earrings that you'll see in lots of the photos of her. She became very famous, and the heads of state, the presidents, kings, she would sing for them. And before you know it, she became like a diplomat, and she would travel to different countries in the Arab world. We know that there are 22 different countries in the Arab world. She would travel to Morocco and Sudan. She would travel to Palestine. She would travel to Lebanon, and she would give concerts. Um, and many people came to these concerts. What made Kulthum so special is that her voice was powerful and it was strong. Kulthum's songs would last over an hour. A typical song is 2 or 3 minutes, but Kulthum could sing for over an hour, and that's what made her special. Her concerts were 4 or 5 hours long, and she was broadcast throughout the Arab world, and people, if they couldn't get to her concert, would listen to her on the radio, or they would listen to her, watch her on TV, and they would, they would wait for this time. They would look forward to it all week for her weekly concert and her broadcasting. Um, she married, and she married a doctor, one of her doctors. But when she was in her 70s, she became ill with a heart problem, and in 1975 she died. And at that point, she was so popular that uh, over 4 million people walked in her funeral, and so they came out to the streets of Cairo to say goodbye. And for those who weren't able to be in Cairo, they were on their TVs, on their radios, and listening, and they were weeping. It was a sad day in the entire Arab world. um, just one thing that I didn't mention was that when Kulthum was alive, and when she would give her concerts, she always sang with a scarf in her hand, like you see right now. And the scarf would change according to her clothing. So she never wore, so it wasn't the same lucky scarf that she had. She had several. And I'm not sure why she, would carry this scarf. Um, if you can do some research, if you come up with an idea, you should definitely let me know. So This is a movie. It's a documentary, which is like an informational film, and it's called Kulthum, A Voice Like Egypt. And it was created in the year 1996, and it was narrated by someone who was very famous. His name was Omar Sharif, and he was an Egyptian actor who began acting in Egyptian films, but later moved to the U.S. and was in lots of American films. And so the voice you hear is the voice of Omar Sharif, and this documentary is about her life. It's a long documentary, so we're only going to watch a few minutes, but in these few minutes, you can hear her music, and you can see some more photos of her, and you can also hear other people talk about what she meant to them, because remember, she's as famous now as she was back then when she were alive, which is amazing. This is a scene from when she was born.
I was born at dawn. The midwife came out to my father, but she did not tell him I was a girl. He knew it from her voice. He was reading about the Prophet Muhammad, and at that moment he came to the names of the Prophet's daughters. We will call her Kulthum, he shouted. He believed that the child had been sent by God and was cause for rejoicing.
4 million people were on the streets of Cairo for Kulthum's funeral in 1975. We had listened to her all our lives. "20 years after her death, we still listen to her singing. And every Egyptian you meet has something to say about her.
السورياني نازلات زي الاهرامات طبعا. مفيش النهارده مفيش حد يقدر يعمل زي ام كلثوم النهارده حاجه خاصه.
في دايما كانت مامي بتصحينا الصبح عشان ما كنتش بحب اصحى بدري، فكانت تقعد تصرخ شويه كده تقول لك وما اطال النوم عمرا. دي من رباعيات الخيام.
اللي بيسمع موسيقى أم كلثوم بيحس بالموسيقى، فبيلاقي جسمه نفسه وضعه مش ثابت، بيتحرك، فبالتالي بيتعايش وبيتماشى مع جسمه، فيمشي وبيرقص، فكده بيبقى حاسس بالأغنية وفاهم معانيها، فبيقدر يرقص عليها، وبيبقى يعني تبقى حاجة حلوة، الواحد يبقى مبسوط بالأغنية، فمن جوه مشاعره إنه بيرقص معاها، بيتعايش مع الأغنية.
كم بنينا حولنا أزرع الحب سكار مثلنا. كم بنينا من خير حولنا ومشينا في طريق مضمر، ومشينا في طريق مضمر. كانت الفرحة فيه قبلنا وضحكنا ضحك الطفلين معا وعداونا فتبعنا.
Why do we feel so connected to her? Perhaps we each hear our own story in her song.
Hi, so I'm back. So that was Kulthum. That was her voice. You heard people talking about how her music made them feel, and she's as famous today as she was when she were alive. That, my friends, is one special thing. So, Kulthum, that's who we're studying. And next week, we're going to have an art project that focuses on Kulthum. So stay tuned. مع السلامة.